bearing down at 3-4. The Eagles' backs were against the wall, but what do? They do what they always do. They respond. They win 31-13 over the Bills. Up next are the Bears. Then comes the bye week. So if they can win this week and then go into the bye week, well, all of a sudden, maybe they got their season turned around. Mike Skolsky, Brennan Albert are both here. I am Adrian FedQ. Did you think the win Sunday was encouraging, or maybe the Bills just not that good?
If I had to put a percentage on it, Adrian, I'm kind of out of order here, but I'll take the middle spot this week. If I would put percentages, I would put 60% Eagles winning the game, 40% the Bills not being as good as we thought. I don't think it's 100% one or the other. I mean, I think when you look at the Bills, and let's call it what it is here, fellas, the most respectable thing that they did this season was lose a close game to the Patriots. And when we're 8 weeks in,
they've been defined by a loss more so than their victories.
Exactly, Adrian. And if that's the most exciting thing about your team, I'm like, can't really give you a lot of praise.
I saw a lot of good things. I mean, there's still some things that worried me, but I mean, a lot of the things that we talked about last week that, people we wanted to see step up, things that we thought needed to happen. I mean, I'm not impressed with their offense, but they do have a legitimate defense, I think. And it was tough weather conditions. We were away, so we saw some of the young guys step up in a big way. So there's a lot of encouraging things. We still have things to work on, but it sounds like we're getting some help back this week, which is huge.
It was encouraging the way they won the game. That's what was encouraging. They didn't win this game where they were trailing 14-0 or 10-0. They trailed 7-3. It was they kind of weathered an early storm, so to speak, more so this week than actually get their doors blown off after the first quarter. So you're able to keep the game plan alive and look at what Doug did. He just ran the football all over the Bills, ran it 41 times. I think it was 41 times. So you're able to win a game the way you wanted to win it. They put it away in the fourth quarter, which, I was looking for a game like this all season long. Now you got to keep doing this and stringing these type of wins together. So up next are the Bears. And, this team to me actually reminds me a lot of the Bills because you have a quarterback just like Josh Allen, an inaccurate mobile quarterback. Now, they do have a couple more receivers, Allen Robinson, and then a better defense. But in a lot of ways, I think the Bills and the Bears are the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like trading up a car model, right? But, it's like it's still the same type of thing. It's just maybe a little bit better in some features. That's really what the Bears are. I mean, Adrian, I think you laid it out perfectly. Now, one thing I think is important to say, and I want to give a little hat tip here to Coach Peterson for running the hell out of the ball. Most rushing yards that he's ever had since he's been the Eagles head coach. And you know what? It's not easy to run the ball 41 times because it's not like the Eagles were super successful on first down, but they stuck with it and good things happened. So we go to the Bears here, Adrian. You're 100% right. Look, let's call it what it is. Khalil Mack, he will mess your stuff up if you let him. So what happens is you have to run the football, and I'm happy to see that they did that against Buffalo. I hope they just carry that blueprint on to the Chicago game this weekend.
I think they've always wanted to run the ball, just their defense letting up the lead so quickly and then playing from behind. They really haven't been able to establish the run. But, I mean, I was saying last week, we had to find ways to get Miles Sanders the ball, get creative, and I thought we did a great job. We got the two running back set. Jordan Howard laid a hell of a block. We got him involved in the screen game. And obviously Jordan Howard was his normal self, getting those consistent 4-yard, carrying the tackles. So, I mean, there's a lot to like for the run game. But, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of similarities right now between the Bears and the Bills. So there's a lot of big tests as well. So it should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, Skolsky basically just nailed it right there. The best part about the Eagles' offense is the offensive line's ability to run block. This has been a strength of the team for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Now, obviously, they have Carson Wentz, but when the offensive line gets going, I mean, we saw what they could do on Sunday. But the problem is, like Skolsky was saying, is when they're trailing 14-0 or they're trailing 27-7, you have to get away from your running game, and your game plan becomes a lot more predictable. So that's what it was each week in, week out. And, the Eagles weren't able to play the game that they wanted to. So they want to run the football. And in the league, that's kind of where it's trending right now. Defenses are getting smaller and lighter, and I'm noticing that. If you look, the teams that are up top the NFL standings this year are running the football. and that's where it's going. And that's where Doug Peterson right now looks where he wants to go with Jordan Howard. 23 carries for Howard, the most, during the Doug Peterson era. I think, Skolsky, did you mention that? I think you did, didn't you? Didn't you? Or was the most carries as a team it was?
Bert.
Oh, Burton mentioned it.
Yeah, give me those credit points.
My bad. I'm trying to research and listen to the show at the same time, so my bad.
Good. Yeah, I mean, here's one thing, Adrian. I'm glad you mentioned this here too. Let me ask this, and this is, I like doing these live comment kind of questions. So everyone in the comment section, take a guess here. What percent do you think the Patriots run the football? What percent do you guys think the Patriots run the football? And Skolsky, I'll have you go first and kind of fill before Adrian gives that guess, and I tell you the answer.
I'm going to say they run at 44% of the time.
I was going to go, I'm guessing a little higher. I'm going to go 54.
Okay. And the reason I bring this up here is the Patriots, who I think we all would agree, best team in the NFL, right? Fair to say, guys?
Yeah.
Running the ball 43% of the time. 43% of the time, the Patriots are running the rock. And I bring this up here because the Eagles right now use that recipe, man. I mean, most of the time, I think if we all said blindfolded, and I said, hey, we got a quarterback and their offense runs the ball 43% of the time, most of us would probably say, oh, that sounds like a game manager, right? Well, if that's what Brady's doing, why is it a big deal if we have the same thing for Carson Wentz? If you're successful and you're winning games, who gives a shit what it looks like? You're winning games, and I think that's what we want to see as a recipe moving forward.
It's a slow, methodical, efficiency-driven offense. So if you have 12 possessions in a game on average, the Eagles want to play about 8 to 10. That's what they want to do. So that's what the offense is all about, putting yourself in favorable third down situations that you're able to convert them. That's why Carson Wentz is up top near the standings each and every year. So that's what their offense is all about. But you can't be slow and methodical when you trail and are behind by double digits. And
right.
That has been the issue all season long. I mean, honestly, that's it right there. It's that simple. You get off the better starts, you're going to start winning more football games. It's that easy to me.
Couldn't agree more.
And like I said, a lot of the things we've been talking about, we needed some of these young guys to step up. We need Fletcher Cox to play like Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, to start finishing plays. And we saw a lot of that this week. I thought, Andre Diller got beat on that first play, but other than that, I thought he looked pretty good. He didn't really let up too many pressures. I just sent you guys that stat earlier. He hasn't had a single penalty at all since he's covered for Jason Peters, which is pretty impressive for a rookie tackle, especially considering some of the guys he went up with. Now he has a real test this week, so that's one of the matchups we'll get into. But we also get some help back, which is going to be great. But it was nice to see before, the whole time, we put too much into DeSean Jackson, which I still think we did, and D-line depth and all that. It was nice to see them get that big convincing win before all those guys come back. So that gives me a little bit of hope that maybe this will, help seal the deal, I guess.
Yeah, we'll stick with the defense before we get to DeSean Jackson, because you talked about it with Fletcher Cox. I thought that he began to play better against Minnesota, and that's when he really kind of started to come off of that injury that he had. And then he kind of took a tumble against Dallas, but then last week had a favorable matchup against John Feliciano. And although he's had favorable matchups before during the year, this is the first time he really took advantage of it. And I had the stat too. Eagles defense had allowed opening drive touchdowns in 5 of 7 games coming in. So 3 and out to start on the first 2 possessions of the Bills. And I thought, the defense is what really got it going. And we need to see that each and every week. The defensive line needs to get more pressure. They did last week, 4 sacks. They also bring in Jannard Avery from the Cleveland Browns. He had 4.5 sacks as a rookie. So he's kind of like a power player. That's what the scouting reports are saying. We'll get what Brendan's thoughts are in a second on him, because I'm not 100% familiar with him. He hasn't really played this year, and he's been kind of like a questionable inactive from what the fans are saying. Brendan, what are your thoughts on Jannard Avery?
Well, look, let's kind of pump the brakes here and let's call it what it is. Adrian, you and me talked about this. Skolsky, you and me talked about this. You draft a guy in the 1st and 2nd round, you're expecting him to be a starter. You're drafting a guy in the 4th and 5th guy, you're expecting him to be a rotation player. You're drafting a guy in the 6th and the 7th, you're pretty much hoping the guy can play special teams at that point. He was a 5th round pick. So what you expect of him is to play 10%, maybe 20% tops of snaps of the game. That's realistically what you expect from a 5th round pick. And Adrian, let me kind of frame this. I can go positive, I can go negative. Let me go negative first because I always like ending on a positive note.
I know exactly. I think I know where you're going.
Only been active in 2 games, and it's not like he's playing on the 85 Bears, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense where the team's loaded. So hasn't been active, which always is intriguing to me. And in general, fellas, I'm always more questionable a team that's trading a guy away because they know what he is mentally, they know what he is athletically, and they know what he is physically. So if they're trading him, I'm always a little skeptical. But if I'm going to go positive here, Adrian, he only started 5 of 16 games in 2019. As you mentioned, 4.5 sacks. And you know what? 4.5 sacks from a rotation guy is fantastic. And you only traded a 4th rounder for him. He's under contract of 2021. So I think it's a fair trade for both sides, honestly.
And it's fair to point out that they do have a new defensive coordinator this year with Greg Williams gone. But I mean, so I don't know if that was, they also traded for Olivier Vernon. So I don't know if he just, they wanted their own guys. The new defensive coordinator wasn't a fan of him in his new scheme, or I guess we'll find out more. But they were saying that Howie Roseman has had his eye on him for a while. He's obviously has some talent as rushing the passer. I wouldn't expect anything more at this point than a rotational pass rusher, which in Jim Schwartz's scheme we need that depth at defensive end, which we haven't really had. And I think he's a little undersized, but with our wide 9 defensive alignment, I think he can fit that kind of pass rushing role in situations. So it'll be interesting to see how we use him and how active he is and how long it takes to get him assimilated, because we could definitely use that depth at defensive end.
Yeah, here's why he was picked up. Chris Long retired. You got rid of Michael Bennett, and you haven't gotten production from Josh Sweat, and you really haven't seen Deshaun Hall. Vinny Curry really hasn't done anything, so maybe Jannard Avery comes in and he can be that third guy who can really give you some production off the edge. I think Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham have brought it recent weeks, but the depth hasn't been there. And that's been the issue because those guys are getting most of the snaps, and Jim Schwartz wants there to be more of an even distribution along the defensive linemen. So if you look at the snap counts, there's a big differentiation between this year, between BG and then last year. So there's a difference right now, and it's because there's a lack of depth along the defensive line. So we'll see if this move pans out for the Eagles. Now, the other question is, should they have tried to do more?
Skolsky, why don't you go first? I want to collect myself here on this one.
If you want, I can go because I know what the correct answer is.
First, before you do this, between the 4th round picks, we've had Josh Sweat now, Sharif Miller, and now this trade. So one of them has to work out, right?
One of them.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adrian. I'll go.
Yeah. Basically, I was just going to say, because there are a lot of people pissed off that Howie Roseman didn't make a move. And this actually didn't surprise me. If you actually listen to my radio show, I called this. I said, don't be surprised if the Eagles don't do anything crazy and they trade for somebody you may not have heard of for a mid-round pick. And that's exactly what they did, because the price for these players have skyrocketed. 2-3 years ago, when Howie Roseman was ahead of the curve, he was able to get guys like a Jay Ajayi for a 4th round pick. Well, now you got to get, it's somebody like Jannard Avery. Now, granted, he's got more years on his contract, but Jalen Ramsey goes for 2 firsts and a 4th. You see Mohamed Sanu go for a 2nd. These guys are going for ridiculously high prices. It didn't surprise me that nothing was done.
What doesn't surprise me here is the fact that the Eagles didn't make a move, and it's like one of the guys that we talked about, like Harris, for example, or Pat P that we talked about here, were traded, right? And what I mean by that is if they were traded, then I would have been surprised the Eagles didn't make the move. But the fact that they weren't traded tells me that the asking price was just too unrealistic, and the Eagles and other teams probably just said, no, what you're asking for is just above market value. And that, to me, Adrian, is why I personally wasn't surprised. If you ask me my general NFL trade surprise, yeah, I'm really surprised that Cincinnati and Denver specifically didn't mortgage everything and get draft picks. From the Eagles' perspective, no, I didn't have a lot of trades because when I look at things from a NFL perspective standpoint, it's not like the Eagles, they should have got him, but instead he went somewhere else. I didn't have that thought at all. Did you, Skolsky?
I think you hit it right on the head there. I mean, if there was a lot of trades yesterday and the Eagles were on the sideline, I would have been here and I would have been, yelling at Howie. But I mean, that just wasn't the case. It was dead. I mean,
right.
I forget what analyst said. It's like Dolphins seem to be the only team aware that they're bad in rebuilding because I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that, I don't get why the teams are so keen on holding on to. They're going to be unrestricted free agents. You can say the comp pick, but I mean, that's no guarantee, because you think if you're a bottom of the barrel team, you're probably going to want to go out and sign free agents. So you can't really just count on comp picks. So they should be taking, if I were them, I would be wanting to take the sure thing knowing my season's over. You mentioned like Cincinnati, like Washington, Denver. I mean, they wanted a second rounder for Robbie Anderson. I mean, I've been banging the drum for Robbie Anderson going back months ago, and I wouldn't give up a second rounder for him.
Neither would I.
It's unrestricted free agent. I mean, it was, like you said, I was more surprised at the NFL than I was surprised at the Eagles. So I would have loved to been able to get another offensive weapon or someone in the secondary, but it just didn't look like it was happening in the NFL, and I don't blame Howie Roseman for that. I blame bad GMs for overpricing their players, essentially.
I blame Howie Roseman for this, for what he's done 2-3 years ago. That's his fault. He changed the game. That's what he did. It's the NFL wants to be like the NBA and the MLB trade deadline right now, and unfortunately, the last 2 years, I think we've had so much action that since we didn't have action and we had a quote unquote normal trade deadline like every other year, we were surprised. So I think that's kind of what happened here. So prices were too high, and just nobody was nibble. Nobody was interested. All right, let's move on to the Bears. Let's move on to the biscuit, and that's one Mitchell Trubisky. What are our thoughts on Mitchell?
I mean, not much. Honestly, I mean, I don't have much.
Is he? He's not better than Josh Allen, is he?
Well, all right. Let me give you some numbers. Josh Allen, the last 6 possessions, was 3 of 16 for 9 yards.
Ew!
That's what he was. The final.
I didn't know it was that bad. I know he. Oh my God!
Let me read you these numbers. Cast earlier. 3 of 16 on the last 6 possessions for a total of 9 yards, and he finished the game with a QBR of 22.4. It's not like the Eagles, to be fair, were playing the greatest show on turf. Well, let me just kind of pump the brakes there. That said, I'm also not really fearing Mitchell Trubisky here. I mean, Josh Allen, as I talked about it last time, where he scared me was when he was going to extend the play because he's a good athlete, and that's eventually what happened on the touchdown pass to Beasley, right?
Yeah, a couple plays, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that same concern is still there, Adrian, but Allen Robinson is a much better receiver than all of the receivers in Buffalo's combined.
I agree with most of what you said. I mean, I'm not even sure if Mitchell Trubisky is better than Chase Daniel. I mean,
so I'm with you there.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they traded up to get him, and then 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league were taken after him. I mean, that's just not looking good. I mean, I haven't been impressed with Matt Nagy. I mean, they have some offensive weapons, but I haven't been really impressed with how they've been, using David Montgomery up until last week, or Tariq Cohen. But like you said, they do have a weapon in Allen Robinson. Trubisky's been struggling to get him the ball recently, but I mean, he did light us up in the playoffs 2 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, 1 year ago, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we got to get our stuff together. But the thing I'm most worried about, as you said, is our mobile QBs, because we seem to continually blow contain on these mobile QBs, and until we do, I mean, you're going to see guys like that. Dak Prescott. God forbid we play Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson in a few weeks. You can't lose contain on those guys. It's great to get pressure, but they can step up to the pocket and burn you for 10 yards, or roll out and find how they got Nate Jerry in that dead man's walk-in situation where he either could go and try to get Josh Allen or abandon his receiver. I mean, you can't lose contain. That's my biggest worry, is them extending plays, and then their receivers are more talented than Buffalo's.
Yeah, we really don't see statue quarterbacks in the NFL so much anymore. It seems to be kind of where the league is going. And that is something that the Eagles do struggle with, is that. So I got some nuggets on the Trubiscuit. So he's 23-35 last week, 253 for 253 yards. But so he had three passes for over 30 yards for the first time all season, because he only came into the game with only 1 all year. So 35, 31, and 31. So he completed some downfield throws. Now, the big problem with Matt Nagy's offense right now is they've been stalling in the red zone. So They had 6 chances from inside the 5-yard line at the end of the first half in this game last week against the Chargers. Didn't score a touchdown. So you talked about Matt Nagy's offense. They're not running the ball enough. He vowed to run the football, and he did run the football last week. So David Montgomery, he had 27 carries after only netting 7 of them the week prior. So he had a career high 135 yards. So this is a Chicago Bears team that has lost 3 in a row. Mitchell Trubisky is coming off a game where he played a little bit better, but he had 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Matt Nagy did run the ball more. Should we be scared at all? Did I already ask this question?
Yeah, but pre-show. Look, I think Adrian, we talked about this pre-show, but I wouldn't be. I mean, honestly, and the reason I say that is, how can I be scared of a Bears offense that doesn't know what they are? I mean, that's the reality right now. Chicago doesn't know what they are of an offense. So if they don't know what they are of an offense, it's hard for me to be fearful of it. If you asked me, maybe you said, can we predict what they are? And do you feel like confident going into the game plan? I probably would tell you no, but I would say it's also because Chicago doesn't have a game plan. They don't know what's going on in their own building, so it's pretty damn hard to really fairly prepare for them. If Chicago's smart, they'll hand the ball to David Montgomery a bunch. And that's not because the Eagles won't stop them, because they will, but it's because David Montgomery puts them in the best winning position. Adrian, you talked about the struggles in the red zone. It all comes back to running the ball effectively.
Which is surprising because they have a great red zone target in Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
And, that's the only person I really fear on their offense right now, which is sad. Because like you said, they have Montgomery and Tariq Cohen's a weapon. They haven't been able to get Tariq Cohen involved at all this year. I mean, I can tell you for that for sure. He was on 2 of my fantasy teams.
He was on 2 of my fantasy.
But I think as long as we can. I mean, like you said, they've been struggling in the red zone. So I mean, as long as I think we can keep them out of the end zone, which they've been doing a pretty good job of that themselves on offense, we can limit the big chunk plays. I'm not afraid of them on offense. I think if they beat us on offense, it's us, blowing coverage or doing something stupid.
Yeah. All right. So what I agree with Skolsky on the sentiment on Allen Robinson, because he killed the Eagles last year in the playoff game, and that's something that opposing teams have done. We saw it Devontae Adams when Green Bay played the Eagles, just basically targeted Devontae Adams one after another. So that is something that they could do, but the Eagles secondary has looked a little bit better with Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills now back. Sidney Jones was in the slot last week. I think he looks better in the slot than he does outside. He got beat one time by Cole Beasley, but other than that, I thought he looked pretty good. So I think the Eagles' defense as a whole looks better. The issue is 3rd and long still. So Bears were not Bears, but God, who the hell did they play? Bills. Bills were 5 of their first 7 on 3rd and 6+. I think they were 5 of 10 until I stopped charting it. But 5 of their first 7, and they had a 3rd and goal from the 14 that they picked up. They had a 3rd and 12. So these teams are still picking up long 3rd and longs, and it's kind of demoralizing.
Well, I mean, it all comes back down to pass rush. I mean, that's really what it is. When you get in 3rd and long situations, you're typically going to play coverage, meaning you're probably only going to rush 4, and you're basically saying, hey, I'm going to hope that my front 4 can get to the quarterback before you get open. And that's what it comes down to, Adrian. I mean, look, the DBs did look better against Buffalo, but I'm also saying, we got to grade on a curve here. Again, Buffalo's a team that going into this game, let me double check this. Yeah, they averaged 19 points per game. This is not a team that's been lighting the league on fire offensively here, and it's not like they have any Pro Bowl offensive threats, period, honestly, fellas. So I think the DBs did play better. I think this is a great get-right game, a great opportunity to kind of build that confidence, and now you go into it with a team that's a little bit better offensively.
And we get, like I said, I've been mentioning, we get a lot of help back. It sounds like Tim Jernigan should be back this week. We won't have a practice squad person next to Fletcher Cox, which is nice. So I'm not really impressed with Jim Schwartz blitzing. I'm okay with his general scheme, but his scheme requires talent on the front 4,
right?
Which due to injuries we haven't really had. So getting Jernigan back and getting an extra pass rusher from Cleveland, trying to blank on his name,
Gerard Avery.
That's something that I think can help, because I think now we get those 3rd and longs. We don't have to send that extra guy. We can have those extra guys in coverage. I'm not a fan of the sticks coverage. Don't get me wrong, but I think teams have pretty much been picking us apart whenever we blitz. So now I think, we have Jernigan out there. We have Avery. We have some depth. We can keep our defensive ends fresh. I think we get those 3rd and longs. We can keep everyone else in coverage and rely on the front four to get pressure on Trubisky.
Yep. All right, well, somebody else who is back this week, the jackpot, DeSean Jackson. He is back, baby. So he's going to be back, hopefully stretching the field. Hopefully he can stay on the field. And I do think this obviously helps the offense. I mean, we talked about how they're kind of slow and methodical. Well, they haven't been taking like a lot of crazy deep shots all season long because they haven't had anybody who could stretch the field. Well, now they have him back. So thoughts on DeSean Jackson and his return?
He's back, right? I mean, let's baby step this. That's an exciting statement to make. He's back, right? He's on the field. That's excitement, right? I don't think we're going to see him 100% go. I think that's a realistic thing. I think you're probably only going to see him play, I don't know, fellas, maybe 20 to 35% of snaps. Offensive snaps. I don't think you can expect him to line up, anything more than that. I mean, DeSean's been a guy who has always had these injury concerns. So even though he's back, you still want to nurse him and baby step your way in. And then when you do put him on the field, you want to start putting him on the field probably early, and you put him on the field early in I formation plays and things like that look obvious run. And that way in the 3rd quarter, you run the same formation if window dressing. Now all of a sudden you can hit him over the top.
All right, let's be real, Brendan. DeSean Jackson could be out there with one leg and be more productive than Matt Collins was these last 4 games.
Yeah.
I think it was 140 snaps, zero receptions. I think maybe 1 or 2 targets. These past 4 games. I think I agree. I don't expect DeSean to be fully back this week, but him just being there, even as a decoy, I think will be great for us. I think that will open up a lot. I mean, Brendan talked about before, about having cover 1 versus cover 2 defense, and that can open up the middle of the field for us. I think you're going to see a lot less double teams on Zach Ertz. We haven't seen a lot of Zach Ertz recently. I think that's going to open up a lot of things from him. I think we're going to start seeing better numbers from him. And I think I think it's going to help our run game. I think just having that threat out there, even if he's not fully back, he's still DeSean Jackson, and teams still have to respect him. So even it might take him a week or 2 to be himself again, I think him just being his presence is huge for our offense right now, because no one respected Matt Collins. I don't even know if you had to put someone to guard him. I don't even know if Carson even looked his way. He was pretty much there to block. He was a 3rd tight end, essentially, lined out the wide receiver position.
No return of the Mac, but there is a return of the Jack. And, he is helping out because they really didn't have anybody else. JJ Arcega-Whiteside basically hasn't played. Matt Collins hasn't done a thing. So it's helping out in that sense, helping out the depth. So it's not the name. It's what he can do. It's his ability to stretch the field and finally give them a vertical threat that they haven't possessed all year long. So if you're running that 12 personnel and you're running the ball like you were saying, hit them up with the play action in the second half, and you can get some things open. So there's that. All righty then. Let's do predictions. Actually, no. We can talk about Chicago's defense. Let's do that first. Chicago's defense still very good. Now, the way I kind of look at it is this. As long as the Eagles don't make mistakes and they just kind of let Mitchell Trubisky make them, that's the way they're going to win this game.
Run the rock right at Khalil Mack. And you just do that because you want him to, when eventually you do have to throw the football, him to be a step more hesitant because he's used to the ball being run at him. You have to do it. Even if it's gain of 1, gain of 2, just can be consistent and be fine with it. So everyone who watches the game understand, just like boxing, you throw the jab not because you're trying to knock him out, but because you're trying to set something up later. That's what you want to think about the run game is, especially when you have a guy like Khalil Mack on the field. So running the ball is crucial. Defense has taken a step down from what they were last year, Adrian, but don't get it twisted. This team is still very good defensively.
I talked about how Andre Dillard stepped up in a big way. Well, here's a real test for him. I mean, Khalil Mack, obviously the best defensive player, if not one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean, you said we're going to have to find ways to neutralize him, whether it's running at him, just giving that hesitant step, putting Goddard over there to help him. But, that's why we have Jason Peters traveling with him these past few weeks, is mentoring and preparing him for the situation like this. So far, he's risen up to the occasion pretty well. but I mean, he hasn't faced anyone of this caliber yet. And I fully expect the Bears to continually line Mac up there against him, make the rookie prove himself. And because that's what I would do. And so that's going to be a big step. I mean, because, you said yourself, we're going to have to limit the turnovers. But, I mean, if Khalil Mack's running free, Carson Wentz's blindside, it's going to be tough to limit turnovers. So that's going to be a huge part of the game. If we can even just limit him, because I don't expect to fully stop him like somehow we did in the playoffs last year. But if we can just somehow limit him, then I like our chances.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel like Mitch Trubisky will make some mistakes, whereas on the other side of the ball, you just got to make sure that Khalil Mack doesn't get free and gets to Carson to make those mistakes. Now, Chicago's defense, as Brendan was saying, not as dominant as they were last year. I think they can be had in the secondary a little bit. There's no more Adrian Amos, so I think you can kind of go at them. Kyle Fuller's pretty good, but overall, it's not what they were a year ago. I think as long as you kind of run the rock, you do some play action, and you just kind of just slowly and methodically work your way down the field and just kind of get to 20 points. That's what I think you need to do to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian, the Bears are only averaging 18 points a game, so that's not exactly an offensive shootout here.
Yeah. As long as you get to 20, you win this game because they're not going to score.
I would say this. I would, instead of giving you a number, I'll give you this. Number 2.5. If you get Khalil Mack under 2.5 sacks, that's a win. If it's over 2.5, you got some problems.
I'm more afraid of the Eagles beating themselves than the Bears beating us right now. Maybe stupid mistakes, whether it's in coverage or pass protection or ball security. I think we should win this game based off how Chicago's been playing, based off Trubisky's, how he's been playing, and getting DeSean back in, Jernigan back, Avonte Maddox back. I mean, things are looking up for us. I mean, one thing we can kind of speak of is how I spoke about the Bills game for us last week. This is pretty much a must-win for the Bears. I mean, I don't think we're letting our foot off the gas because it's not like we're in a comfortable position either. But they're in last place in their division, and they're starting to question whether or not Trubisky's even the guy or not. I mean, I don't think he is, but I mean, they're trying to figure that out. So there's a lot riding on this game for them. So we have to come with our, we can't be making mistakes because they'll make us pay for it.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Now we'll go predictions here. We'll go prediction time. Then we'll take some comments. So we'll see about that. I think the spread right now is 5. The Eagles are favored by 5. The last time I checked, and I have 20-16 Eagles. So I actually don't actually have them covering. I probably wouldn't bet this game. I wouldn't touch this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game that the Eagles will kind of control, but they win. So I think they run the ball a lot. We'll see that recipe kind of again. Trubisky turns the ball over twice, and the Eagles win an ugly one on Sunday.
I like that, Adrian. I mean, I think the number I saw here at Caesars the other day was 4.5, so maybe it has climbed a little bit there. Boy, I feel pretty confident in this one, and I say that because I don't see a lot offensively that scares me with Chicago because they have better players than Buffalo, yes, but they have a worse chemistry, it seems like right now, and that they don't really know what they're doing. So it's hard for me to imagine a team who doesn't know what they're doing is going to somehow beat another professional football team. So I actually would bet this, Adrian. I would bet the money line to Eagles to cover. I don't know. Give me 31-21. I think is a fair number to shoot.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
I seem to be doing pretty well in my predictions when I predict the Eagles to win big. Whenever I say it's going to be close, they seem to lose. So I'm going to go. I think I almost had the score exactly last week. So I'm going to go. I was going to go 31 points for the Eagles as well. I'm going to do 17 for the Bears with a missed field goal on their part, just to rub it in a little bit off the left upright. So I'm pretty confident for a lot of the reasons that Bird said. They're flawed in a lot of the same ways that Buffalo, but they don't have that chemistry. They don't have the cohesion. I think their offense is struggling for identity hard right now. People are questioning, like I said, they're questioning their quarterback. There doesn't seem to be a lot of faith in him. They're struggling to get the ball to a top wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot of things to like for Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's coming off a huge win where they seem to be like they're finally starting to gel a little bit, and we're getting some help back. So it's like that's like two good things going Philly's way. So all those things considered, I'm going to go Philly 31-17.
I'll tell you what, if they score over 30 in this game, I'm going to start feeling real good about the rest of the season. If they put 30 on this defense, they're not going to lose for a while. That means they're beating New England and Seattle. I'm telling you right now. If they look this good again and they put 30 on the Bears, that's an impressive performance to me.
Pump the brakes on it.
Pump the brakes on beating 30 because I don't think they're getting it. I think it's going to be struggle to get to 20. So 30 is a lot, I think.
Okay. You know what? I will say this. I'm feeling a little aggressive about my 31 number. If Adrian, if you were by my side when we were walking up to the sportsbook window, maybe I would let you talk me down into having a little bit lower. But I still think the Birds cover the 4.5. Let's not get that twisted.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to remember what was the score of the playoff game? It was 16-15?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, shit weather in Chicago, really, really slow grass. There's a lot of factors there. I don't think that's a fair comparison, though, Adrian.
Yeah.
What's the weather supposed to be this weekend, Mitch? Looks like it's clear, 52.
As long as it's not gusty.
And Chicago got some shit turf, too. I mean,
they probably have the worst grass in the NFL.
Yeah, and I'm speaking obviously, especially in playoff time when the weather gets really wet and rainy and crappy out there. That field sucks.
Man, if they put up 30, dude, I'll be impressed. I will be very impressed, and I'll start to feel very confident about the Eagles.
I wouldn't say I'd be very confident, but I would definitely, start to get some of that optimism back, which I feel like like you said, I wasn't just going to be happy with a win in Buffalo last week. I wanted a convincing win, which I thought we did. And now that we're getting healthier and we're starting to gel, some of the younger guys are starting to, take that next step. Now I'm starting to feel a little bit more optimistic. We put up a big score here, that'd be great. But then the real test is going to be, even if we win this week, Seattle and New England. I mean, we talked about how they've been struggling with mobile quarterbacks. Russ is probably one of the best ones, and obviously New England, one of the best teams in the NFL.
And let me kind of chime in on that before we segue here to some questions, Adrian. I want to kind of play out the next 4 games. I want to put the cart before the horse here, all right, and kind of tell you what's coming down the pipeline here. So the Bears averaging 18 points a game, that doesn't terribly fear me. The Ravens play the Patriots next weekend, or this upcoming weekend. So I think that's actually going to play really well into the Eagles' hands because the Ravens are going to play them really physical. And I do think it's realistic that you get in a Patriots team who's going to be a little dinged up. So I don't think it's a layup win, but I think that does make it really more appealing for the Eagles. Then, of course, you have the Hawks. I think that's a really tough one there in Seattle. And then you get Miami. So that's an easy win. So I think realistically, you're sitting there once we get past these four games, 7-5 record, I think is realistic. And then we look at Dallas on the other hand. Dallas has got the Giants. Okay, that's a win. But then they got the Vikings, the Lions, and the Pats. Those 3 are really tough. And I think it's very realistic that when we look and we talk in 4 weeks, Eagles are sitting here at 7-5, Dallas is sitting there at 6-4. And let me just burst the bubble to everyone. The loser of this division is not getting a wild card. I will put a lot of money and a lot of confidence on that. So these next 4 weeks are crucial for the Eagles to take care of business, to put themselves in a good position to eventually beat the Cowboys and then put themselves to win the division.
Well, the Eagles' last 5 games, it's Dolphins, Giants twice, Redskins, and then the Cowboys at home. So it's like if you get through this stretch, Bears you should win on Sunday. Then you got the Patriots and the Seahawks at home after a bye. I'm telling you right now, if they put up 30 on the Bears, they're beating the Patriots after the bye.
I think we'll get a real test of the Patriots. I mean, they've kind of had a cakewalk so far, but now they have a real matchup.
Well, that's going to be the Patriots' first test is going to be this Sunday, and their defense has actually been susceptible to the run, and the Ravens can run all over you.
So that's what I'm intrigued to see. I mean, obviously the Patriots are a very, very good team, but it'd be nice to see them go against a team that's of their caliber.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm excited to see how real they actually are. I know defensive wise, fantasy wise, they've been as good as like Christian McCaffrey on my bench. On my defensive slot. So they've been getting turnovers, touchdowns, everything you could ask for. So that's one of the better matchups this week for sure.
All right, we're going to look at some questions now, and the first one I'm going to look at here is is from Wealthy Mind. Not really a question here, but it's more of a topic that I'm going to bring to you guys. So run to that side with both running backs while Jordan Howard lead block. So I liked that look last week where they had Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders both in the backfield at the same time, because what that presence allows you for is, you have the threat of Miles Sanders pass catching the ball, but Jordan Howard isn't really known as a pass catcher. So I like that dynamic. And as you saw, he could block. That was a beautiful lead block by Jordan Howard. So I like to see that package a little bit more. That's what she said.
I think honestly here, and I go from more of a schematic standpoint here, Adrian. I don't care where they line up. I care that they're both on the field at the same time, because that changes defensively what you call. And as we talked about here, Miles Sanders
that's kind of that's the conversation.
And Miles Sanders being able to play more and more in the slot really opens the door for a lot of different things here.
I saw someone joke, how Miles Sanders been having trouble finding the hole, that all he had to do is follow Jordan Howard on that one. Jordan Howard found the hole for him. But all kidding aside, I mean, like I said last week, find ways to get your playmakers the ball, and that was Miles Sanders. I mean, we found a creative play. Apparently, Jeff Stoutland got it up, like you said. Find ways, get them both on the field at the same time, make the defense think. You got a back that can bring the thunder and a back that can bring the lightning. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you can run out of that formation, or even just that set, I should say. So, I like it. I hope we see more of it.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Bubba. Good old Bubba. 0224. Run the damn ball. Howard should get at least 25 touches this game. Big, bold, capital letters. He had 23 last week. So, is this a game where he should get not 25, but say 20 plus?
I think 20 is fine. I'd like to, and the reason I say 20 is because I'd like to see some carries go to Miles Sanders more, right? I think everyone here can agree we'd love to see Miles Sanders get more opportunity to develop. But yeah, run the hell out of the ball. Totally agree, Bubba. I'm just not yelling it in all caps, brother.
Yeah. And before I say this, knock on wood, I do agree that Miles Sanders has been doing a much better job and deserves more carries, and he's been doing a much better job with ball security, which is the most important, I think. But I mean, I would love to see Jordan Howard get 20 plus carries. If that's the case, I think we can get to a big lead. Have him come in as that LeGarrette Blount 2017 role where he's kind of, how we had last week, which was the first time I saw in a while. We had those slow, methodical drives that seem to take like almost a whole quarter on one drive where, we're just getting those 4 yards, letting the clock go down 4 yards and just slowly taking, pretty much putting an end to the game. So I think if we can get off to an early lead, I see no reason why Jordan Howard doesn't have 20 plus carries.
Yeah. So you kind of referenced Miles Sanders. Now, thoughts on him. So there were two things that he was doing kind of early on in the season. One thing he's still kind of doing is not really hitting the hole decisively. But what I have seen improvements in his ability to make people miss in the open field. So that was his trait, in college, and it was going a little fast for him. But last week we saw that one screenplay where he made 2 miss in the open field. And that was something we hadn't seen earlier in the season. So not only did he make 1 miss in the open field, he made 2. So that was encouraging to see for me from Miles Sanders. Oh, boy. Well, we got this question again. Eric R., would you dance with the devil and sign AB?
No.
Is this thank you next, Ariana?
No, you're still figuring out your own club. Talking more about Orlando Sanders, a guy who doesn't even play on the team, is causing a whole bunch of drama in the Eagles clubhouse. You're not ready. You're not ready to bring someone in. Maybe you go another 2 weeks, things start looking a little bit better, clubhouse gets more organized and more unified. Fine, but now, not ready.
No. Don't even put the figment of imagination into the Eagles fans' minds.
All right.
No.
First off, shout out Orlando Scandrick. I think that's one of those things where it's like I can talk shit on my family, but as soon as someone from outside my family talks shit on me, that brings us together, and now we have a common enemy. And I felt like that we saw the whole team come together to jump on him, so that was great. It seems like everyone. It was also a great touch by the Eagles Twitter to release that mic'd up moment for Orlando Scandrick going up to Malcolm Jenkins. Oh, you're great, such a great leader, man. I follow you anywhere. So that was awesome to see, just from the Twitter guy to our quarterback to the Malcolm Jenkins, just everyone came together to say, "Fuck Orlando Scandrick talking shit for us to Skip Bayless." Essentially, so I mean,
Orlando Scandrick
that was clearly initiated by Skip Bayless. Absolutely troll job.
Orlando Scandrick essentially has become a pinata in the Eagles locker room that they all rallied behind to beat up.
Yeah, but going back to the question, no, I would not say sign AB. I mean, we have been getting I think our locker room got a little bit better, and winning does cure a lot of things. But I'm not bringing him anywhere near there. We're not that. The issues aren't completely gone after a win in Buffalo. I mean, they're improved a lot, I think, and winning will continue to improve them. But I wouldn't risk bringing him in.
Kevin Cronin is asking if he can have a wrench. Now, we're using StreamYard, so I don't know how to do a wrench on this thing. But as soon as I can figure out how to give you a wrench, I will give you a wrench. There it is. All right. Just wanted to make that note because I know he's been wanting a wrench. I've seen him before, and I don't know how to give you one. This is new technology, and I don't know how to use.
I'm an old man. I don't understand this.
What's a wrench?
Yeah.
I think.
All right. So something that people are kind of talking about in the chat because the final 5 games of the year. So, do you feel like those are going to be problems potentially with the Giants and Redskins? Would they potentially overlook those teams?
Sure. I mean, look, they're still an NFL team. I mean, these guys are still getting paid millions of dollars in the end of the day. So even though, whether you're the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Giants, it doesn't matter. You're still an NFL team. I mean, the Jets beat the Cowboys, and most people, including all 3 of us, would say the Cowboys have a much better defense. So, yeah, any overstep can happen. It's still an NFL team.
NFC East games or any divisional games, you never know what can happen. I mean, you've seen Dolphins, Bills beat the Patriots in some of the Patriots' better seasons. I mean, they're never gimmies. So I would never just completely chalk it up to win. When Adrian was saying that, he's more saying it's a game that we should win. When you're looking at the wins losses, but obviously nothing's guaranteed in the NFL, especially divisional matchups, because they would love to play spoiler. They would love to be the reason that we don't make the playoffs. So I mean. Luckily, I don't think the Eagles are going to be in a position where they can really overlook anyone. Maybe the Dolphins, but other than that, I don't think there's anyone they're going to, really have to really be too overly confident against, I should say.
See, I'm starting to feel a little confident about the Eagles. Maybe one game. Now, it's not just one game. I had been feeling this actually before they started losing. I've been waiting for them to kind of come out. They've been a second half team. So you know what? I'm going to say it. The Giants are not going to be a problem. The Cowboys are going to be a problem, though. They're going to be a problem. I'm telling you right now. They don't match up well with the Cowboys. Giants, not going to be a problem. Redskins, not going to be a problem. Dolphins, damn sure not going to be a problem. Cowboys, though, maybe. All right, so the game in New York or New Jersey, maybe that's the problem with Daniel Jones. But they fuck the Giants. They don't scare them. All right. Kevin Cronin agrees with me. Eagles will win 11 in a row, win the Super Bowl. There you go.
Done.
Wow. Somebody wants Howie Roseman. Does Howie Roseman deserve to be fired? No.
That's easy one. No.
If you think Howie Roseman deserves to be fired, you can walk straight first into the Delaware River. I mean, you're just a complete dope. Look, he's not a great drafter right now. I get that. I mean that's looking kind of obvious right now. It
was Joe Douglas the one making the picks.
He hired Joe Douglas, so he's still the one making the final decision. Look, we've been waiting all of our lives for a Super Bowl. We take a terrible Chip Kelly team, and 2 years later we win the Super Bowl. First time ever. 2 years later, you want to get rid of him? I mean, criticize him, sure. I mean, question his moves all day. But you want to fire the guy that just constructed this our first Super Bowl ever? We still have we're one game out of first place, and you want to get rid of him? How about we just pump the brakes on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll say that. I mean, I've had moments in the past, even the last year, I was I don't like some of the free agents I just signed, but you don't fire him. You can criticize him, you don't fire him. You see Big Joe stinking it up, Eric R. says, in New York. Maybe. I mean, that's just a bad situation and a bad spot to be in.
I mean, they hired Gase before they hired him, which apparently he's a fan of Gase, but then they also got Le'Veon Bell to a huge contract and C.J. Mosley to a huge contract before bringing him in. So it's kind of I wasn't surprised Joe Douglas left. I was kind of surprised he left for that situation. But I mean, they gave him I think a 5 or 6 year deal. So I mean, he can. They're giving him the keys to blow it up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's stinking it up. I mean, I was a little surprised he didn't maximize the value. But maybe maybe he has big plans this offseason. He wants to re-sign Robbie Anderson and guys like that. But it'll be interesting to see what he does.
And they'll have a ton of cap money too. I mean, they'll have a ton of cap money. I think the bigger issue, honestly, is the Kelechi Osemele situation. It's just really, really weird what's going on there in New York. I go back and forth, honestly, if I think this is going to affect how free agencies view the Jets. But, yeah, I mean, it's not off to a great start. Let's put it that way.
All right, we're going to take one more question here. As I had, all right, here we go. Fireman 2531. Do you think Sidney Jones will improve? I think the thing for Sidney Jones, I think he's better in the slot. I think he's quick. I think he's jittery, and he kind of plays instinctively better there. I think outside he doesn't look as good. I also think a scheme change would help him, but that's not going to happen here in Philadelphia. I think he looks better in the slot, and he played better last week. So I think that's where he needs to be. But when Avonte Maddox comes back, that's where he's going to be, and Sidney Jones is going to be out, back to being a backup.
No disagreements. Totally agree, Adrian.
So, I mean, this is technically his second year. I mean, his first year was obviously completely lost due to the Achilles injury. Obviously played garbage time against the Cowboys. And cornerback's also one of the notoriously harder positions to adapt to in the NFL, I believe, as well. I don't really have hopes for him to ever live up to his draft potential, but I certainly think he'll improve. I think, he also has been struggling to stay on the field due to various injuries. I also don't know if he'll ever be able to stay completely healthy. That's another question we have on him. And maybe a change of scenery will end up doing him well, but I haven't completely given up on him being like a solid player, I guess, a solid starter, but he's obviously not there yet. I do agree with you, Adrian, that I think he's better suited for the slot at this point. And he's actually played pretty well. He actually played pretty well earlier on in the year, but obviously he's had a few duds, I think. I think last week, other than that one Cole Beasley touchdown, which I think Cole Beasley just kind of put a great move on him right at the line of scrimmage when he went to push him. I thought he held his own for the most part.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways he had that really bad stretch, and I think people thought he was worse than he actually was. But there's still room for improvement, obviously, with Sidney Jones. All right, so we're 52 minutes in. I think Brennan probably has to leave, don't you? Don't we have to get out of here?
Yeah, I'm about ready.
All right. Let's do that. All right, so we'll just get out of here. Quick final thought. Do you have anything? Or you want to just bounce? We'll just bounce. We're bouncing.
I can't wait to talk more draft stuff.
I'll be there Sunday, so they better win.
Oh, awesome! I'm gonna be there Sunday too. Sunday.
Right, we'll talk after.
Maybe we'll meet up. Yeah, we'll see what we can do with that because I'll be doing the pregame stuff. All right, Brennan Albert, Mike Skolsky. I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out of here. Peace.